This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Let me also share my screen and then we get started. Can one of you quickly confirm if my screen share is also visible?
Yes, visible. Yeah.
Visible, is it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you everyone for joining this demo session on automation testing of APIs using Postman tool. So my name is Kiran and I'm your trainer for this training program, API automation using Postman tool. We'll have a quick round of discussion. We'll have a quick round of my introduction, followed by the table of contents and what is in the store for those people who enroll in this course. Can one of you again quickly confirm I'm pretty much audible and the video and the audio and the screen share is also visible, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's all right.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Kiran and I have close to 19 years experience in the IT industry. So I have started working in IT sector starting from the year 2003. Started my career as a developer and then switched to testing in the year 2005. And in this career spanning 19 years, I have played multiple roles like a test engineer, test specialist, test analyst, test consultant, test manager, QA head, and now currently working as a director for software testing for a product-based company. And coming to my trainings experience, right? I have been doing these corporate trainings from last 15 years. Guys, please go on mute. Guys. Okay, I had to mute the participants. Okay. Yeah. So coming to my trainings experience, right? So I have been doing these corporate trainings from last 15 years. I deliver trainings most of the times to corporates across Asia and Asia Pacific regions. I mean, within India and outside India as well. Coming to my specialties, I train on performance testing, security testing, front-end automation testing, and back-end automation testing of APIs using multiple tools. To name few tools, I deal with tools such as Postman, Ready API tool, SOAP API tool, Catalan Studio tool, Rest Assured, Insomnia, Tailend. These are few of the tools that I have hands-on experience, consulting experience, and delivery management for backend automation. And I have trained close to 1,000+ corporate employees, thus covering nearly 200 to 250 corporate companies across India and outside India. So that's pretty high level introduction about myself. But then if you have any general questions on testing, you can obviously go ahead and ask me towards the end of the demonstration. So let me also show you the course curriculum that we have prepared at Isha Training Solutions for API automation testing. And specific to API testing and Postman tool, I have been working on this tool from last, I would say 7 years. And I've seen Postman tool from the basics of Postman tool until today's version. I'm pretty much experienced on using Postman tool. I in fact do consulting and delivery engagements for most of the clients in India and US on API automation testing using Postman. In fact, right now when I'm doing a demo to you, this demonstration call, I'm at a client location. I'm traveling. I'm currently in Bangalore, working for a customer a couple of days to get this done on the same technology, API testing and Postman tool. So on the screen, I'm presenting the table of contents. This table of contents is prepared keeping in mind the expectations in the job market, keeping in mind the automation challenges that most of the testers experience in their projects. So this course will be an answer to either your job hunts or existing project challenges that you are facing. You will get all solutions in this course. And this course happens to be 95% practical training, hands-on training, with 5% being theory. And I'm sure you will love the theory because that sets the foundation for you to become an API tester. Am I clear until this point? Anyone has any questions?
Huh?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, the question I have is, when we talk about API testing, is it with regards performance, or when I mean performance, I mean um, we are not actually dealing with any functionalities, or is it functional wise, functionality wise, or is it performance wise? This API testing, or
Okay,
API
good
testing
question.
is also
Yeah, I got your question. Thanks for asking.
performance
So
testing.
API
These
testing,
APIs they put load on it, right? So that
yes. So API testing can be, observed either from functional testing perspective or non-functional testing perspective. I can help you with. Am I audible, guys? Ankit says he cannot hear, but am I audible for others?
no, you are audible for me. You are audible. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
yes, audible.
internet
Yeah.
or
Okay,
Audible.
okay, good. So APIs can be tested for functionality. APIs can be tested for security. APIs can be tested for performance as well. And in this course, when I'm using Postman tool, I will show you how to test the functionality of APIs. I will also show you the basics of how to test the API's performance using the same tool called Postman. We will generate reports also. And I will also show you the basics of conducting security testing on APIs using Postman tool. But I promise it's only the basics on performance and basics on security, because Postman tool is actually designed and developed for API functionality testing that we will cover end to end, meaning in-depth knowledge on functional testing of APIs is part of my course. Performance testing and security testing would be covered so that you get some idea and how to conduct it and how to generate reports. But if you are more interested on performance testing of APIs or security testing of APIs, there are other tools in the market like Jmeter, Gatling, Load Runner for performance testing, Burp Suite or Z-Attack proxy tool for security testing of APIs. So I repeat, this course is primarily focused at functional testing of APIs with the 5% focus on performance and security testing of APIs. I hope that answers your question.
yes, but you are breaking in between. You come in and out. I don't know what is wrong with it.
Oh, okay. Is that breaking for others as well, or am I pretty much clear?
I'm able to hear you. Pretty much clear,
Okay,
sir.
Yeah, voice is clear.
okay, okay, cool. And in case if my screen share is coming very, small resolution on your computers, please maximize your GoToMeeting window so that you can see it in full screen. Okay, now I present. Excuse me. So now I present the course curriculum. Chapter 1 deals with introduction to basics of API, introduction to three-tier architecture model, where we will understand front-end, back-end, and server-side systems. And we'll also discuss about client and server architecture model. So that by the end of chapter 1, we will be pretty much clear on how a client and server communicates with each other whenever you are testing APIs. What are the different HTTP methods involved, the definition of each, and why do we use these methods, and other parameters such as when you test an API, there is a response code, there is a response description involved, HTTP headers such as request headers, response headers are involved, SSL protocol and TLS protocol is involved. We'll talk about them. The protocols such as HTTP and HTTPS is involved. We'll also talk about them. And how does an API request look like? How does an API response look like? We will discuss all these things in chapter 1. Chapter 1 is 100% theory, but I promise you will learn something which you have never thought of, which you have not heard in your manual testing or current exposures. That's chapter 1 for you guys. Coming to chapter 2, we will focus on the evolution and the classification of APIs. So right from XML RPC APIs, which is the first of its kind technology developed for APIs, then we'll talk about SOAP APIs, REST APIs, And if you have heard of GraphQL APIs, we'll talk about that a little bit. Then the classification of APIs such as public APIs and private APIs, or enterprise APIs and consumer APIs. We'll talk about those things in chapter 2. And we'll also have a look at the syntax of an API, meaning the structural form of how an API looks like when you get it from your development team. And sometimes, you work on different technologies of APIs, such as in project 1, you work on SOAP APIs. Project 2, you work on RESTful APIs. So what should be your approach in testing? Is there a difference in your testing approach, or how would you identify the differences in SOAP APIs and REST APIs? This forms primarily the crux point for chapter 2, which is evolution of APIs and classification of APIs. So that's chapter 2. And this is also a theoretical chapter, but I'm sure you will love this because the basics will be clear. Chapter 3 is where we become a little closer to actual API testing, where I will show you the different testing techniques that are involved in testing the APIs. I bet even if you go to google.com and search, you don't happen to hear these testing techniques, because these things needs to be done for any API, and it comes only with practical exposure in the projects that you have been working and the challenges you are facing. So chapter 3 deals with the different testing techniques that we are going to talk from a definition perspective, from an approach perspective, and from the tooling perspective. I will also show you a reusable test plan and a reusable test case document, which would be my deliverables for you guys. It's a general document that I'll share with you guys on some reusable test cases, which if you read, you will get an understanding of how an API should be tested, and also a reusable test plan. When you read it, you will understand how a tester should approach, planning the testing activity for your APIs. That's chapter 3. After chapter 3 is completed, we will work directly on hands-on. Only the first 3 chapters are theory. The remaining chapters starting from chapter 4 happens to be practicals. So chapter 4, I will introduce you guys to the Postman tool, where we will visit Postman website. We'll try to understand what is this tool all about, what are the features provided by this tool. Like the tool provides functional testing of APIs, performance testing of APIs. Then what is the process to download the tool, install the tool, and how do you sign up into this tool? What happens if you don't sign up, and what benefit you get if you sign up? And then how do you access Postman directly on the browser if you don't want to install it on your Mac operating system or Windows operating system? So we'll have all these discussions in chapter 4. And after we install, sign up, and sign in, we will also have a walkthrough of the graphical user interface of the Postman tool, so that you understand how the tool looks like. So I have the tool. I'll launch the tool in a few minutes. I just clicked on it. Chapter 5 introduces towards Postman hierarchy. In any automation tool, understanding the tool is more important, right? Before you get into coding or automation exercises, the tool should be familiar to us. So chapter 4 makes you little familiar with the tool, and chapter 5 introduces what is a hierarchy that a test engineer has to follow before he or she gets into automation. In that process of hierarchy, I will teach you what is a workspace, what is a collection, what is a folder, what is a request, what is a pre-request, what is a tester script, what are variables, etc. I will define all those things, but at a very high level in chapter 5. In chapter 5, we'll also talk about different workspaces that Postman provides us to create a project repository. That's the first thing we do, right? We always create a project repository. And these project repositories are called as workspaces in Postman. And the workspace is available in multiple flavors. Example, we have a personal workspace, we have a public workspace, we have a private workspace, we have a team workspace, we have a partner workspace. So we'll get an understanding of why these many workspaces are there, and which one should we use for the training, and which one you should use for your projects. So that understanding is what I'll give you in chapter 5. After that, I will also talk about how you can delete the existing workspace, because sometimes you create it for practice and then you want to delete it, or by accident you might have created it and you want to delete it. So how do you create, how do you delete? We will talk about it. And if I have to make you my team member in my workspace, how do I invite you? What are the different methodologies available to invite you so that you become my team member, so that you can see my automation work in your computer? and I can see your automation work from my computer. So how do you share your workspaces is what I'll talk in chapter 5 as well. And another interesting thing is we can convert the workspaces visibility. So if I have created a personal project, I can convert it into public project. Or if I have created a public project, I can convert it to team project or a partner project. So how do you convert the type of projects? That is also part of my chapter 5. Okay. So chapter 4 and 5 will make you pretty much familiar with the GUI of Postman tool. Let me take a pause here. Anyone has a question until this point?
Are we going to cover AppDynamics as well?
No, AppDynamics is not related to API testing.
Okay, I'm seeing something like Swagger. So Swagger is a separate tool or software we use in API testing.
Yeah, Swagger is a third-party tool used by developers for documenting the APIs and doing unit testing of APIs. Swagger will be part of our training discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, AppDynamics is different. It is meant for performance engineering, so that's definitely not a part of our course because that's completely a different topic. Swagger, as you said, it's part of my course. If you look at chapter 6, I have mentioned Swagger here. I hope you are able to see this, right?
Okay. Yeah. You talked about also SOAP. Are we gonna use SOAP in this?
SOAP APIs. Yes, SOAP APIs we are going to use in the training.
So we're gonna use SOAP API, but we're not gonna use SOAP UI for any testing
Yeah,
process.
SOAP UI is another tool. We are not using SOAP UI tool, but we are using SOAP APIs, REST APIs in Postman tool. So let me put it on my notepad. You will get little clarity here. So when I say APIs, you have SOAP APIs and REST APIs. So this I'm covering. This I'm covering in my course. SOAP APIs also I'm covering, but using Postman tool. There is something else called as SOAP UI tool. So this is a different tool. This is not part of our TOC of our course because this is another tool, right? We
So
are
so
using
what?
Postman tool.
Yeah. Whatever SOAP UI does, Postman is gonna do same, right? With regards
Yes,
to AI testing.
yes. They are just two different tools.
Okay.
SOAP UI tool is from Smart Bear community and Postman is from Postman community. These two are competition tools. Okay.
So sorry
Let
guys,
me.
I'm not dominating. I'm just trying to ask basic questions, my friends. Please just pardon me a little bit. So is there any programming language required for this training? Or if so, which one is the best and how depth somebody could go? Programming
Yeah,
language like Java, .NET, Python. Do we need to have any programming language
yeah.
knowledge?
JavaScript is the basics of JavaScript is enough. But then, even if you do not come from programming background, absolutely there is no harm because the JavaScripts are pre-built into the Postman tool. If you can understand the script, that's more than enough. You don't have to be a programmer or you don't have to be learning JavaScript first and then join this course. But the programming language we use will be JavaScript at a very little level.
All right, thank you.
Are we recording this session?
Yes, yes, we are. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen share, right?
Yes, screen is visible, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm talking about chapter 6. So in chapter 6, you will get complete idea of how to approach testing of REST APIs, SOAP APIs using Postman tool. And the beauty of this chapter is the API documentation can come from any third-party tool. Like your developer might use a Swagger tool, Then how would you understand the Swagger documentation and test it in Postman? That's something I'm going to show you. Example, if I have to show you, if I say JPEGs or Swagger, yeah. So this is one Swagger documentation. So here you have some APIs. So how do you understand these APIs? We will cover it in the course. How do you test them in Postman? That also I'll cover it in the course. Okay. Sometimes the API documentation can come in the form of a HTML page. So the developer can give you something like this. So I'll just give you a example page. Let's say this one. This is pretty famous on the internet. So this is one API documentation page where APIs are available. So you see there are so many APIs here. So we'll try to understand what is this documentation, how should you understand this, and how would you test it. Then another way is, another page I'll show you. This is where the curl commands will be available from the development team. So the developer can end up giving you this kind of programming language commands. So how would you understand these commands and how would you test it in Postman? That's part of our course again. That's what I wrote here in curl. Then I'll show you how to generate a HAR file, which is called as HTTP archive resource file, and how would you test those HAR files if it's coming from a developer. Sometimes developers give you a JSON document or a YAML document, and how would you test it? That also is part of the course. And sometimes you get a WSDL document, which is called as Web Services Description Language. Example of that can be something like, let me show you this page. Yeah, so sometimes you get APIs in this format. Okay. Then how would you understand these APIs is also part of our course. Sometimes you get it in XML format like this. So how would you test them using Postman tool? And how would you understand them is also a part of discussion in chapter 6 under point 1. Then we'll follow the hierarchy in Postman, where I'll show you how to create a framework in Postman. How do you create positive test cases and negative test cases, or smoke and regression test cases? And we will take different examples of REST APIs that uses authorization and that uses no authorization. When I say authorization, see, sometimes you will have this authorization. So here, if you see, the word authorization is there here, right? So the developer is using bearer access token authorization. So how would you handle the authorization APIs, and how would you handle the non-authorization APIs? Example, if you see this particular example, this is non-authorization. And if you see this example also, they are non-authorization, meaning you don't have to enter any username and password. So overall, you will get a holistic approach of how to test your APIs, whether they have whether they are in XML format or JSON format or YAML format, whether they follow authorization or they don't follow authorization. Then we will see how do you validate different aspects of an API, such as a response code, response description, response body, response cookies, etc. Chapter 7 talks about Postman collections. I'll tell in one line what is a collection. It's a folder-like structure inside which we will create our automation test cases of type smoke or of type regression or functional or performance. So collection is a minimum thing that we have to create. It looks like a folder structure. And without collection, there is no automation in Postman. So how do you create a collection? How do you rename it? How do you make it public? How do you make it private? How do you run it from command prompt? How do you run it from another tool? Or how do you run from Postman? How do you run from Jenkins? All those things will be discussed in chapter 7 and so forth. Chapter 8 introduces the advanced automation, where I will teach you data-driven automation testing, where the test data will be supplied from a CSV file, comma separated value file, or from a JSON file, which is JavaScript object notation. So data-driven automation testing is testing one API with multiple sets of test data. And that's pretty much important in automation testing using Postman tool or any other tools in the market. So that is the focus I'm going to have. I will also talk about interoperability automation testing, which is kind of browser compatibility testing using Postman tool, which simply tells you how can you say that this API is compatible with Windows operating system or Mac operating system or Linux operating system. Sometimes you can also advise whether this API is compatible with Firefox browser, Chrome browser, Safari, Microsoft Edge, etc. Then we'll focus on performance testing of APIs using Postman tool, where I'll show you how you can run the same set of APIs for hundreds of users for a fixed duration or for a ramp up increased duration. Then there is another automation testing technique called continuous testing using a feature called as Postman monitors, where I can schedule my automation to run at a particular date and time. So let's say tonight at 11 o'clock, my time, India time, I'm probably busy watching a movie, but my developer expects me a report from Kiran. So I will simply say, okay, hey Postman, run my automation code exactly at 11 p.m. Once the execution is completed, send a report to my developer and copy me in the email. Postman does that. So that kind of scheduled testing or continuous testing is also part of Postman, and we'll discuss that here. And important piece in chapter 8 is assertions testing. Assertions are conditional checks. So you're going to write a lot of Java code, JavaScript code to verify whether these responses that you are getting from server are valid or not. And I have given some descriptions here at a very high level. I'll just repeat it. Like a response code, we will validate using a JavaScript. Response time, we will validate. Response body, we will validate. Response headers, the JSON value, writing some conditional statements. We'll skip some APIs in between if necessary. How do you introduce artificial delay during execution? All those things and the related JavaScripts I will explain. In fact, I have prepared a document which has the commonly used JavaScripts, and that's pretty much common in any company, in any project. I will also share that document to you. Then I'll talk about another automation testing technique called as API chaining, and that's one of the first questions in the interviews most of the times, because that's the basic thing that an API tester should know. So you will learn how to conduct API chaining. API chaining is a process where I extract the response from one API and supply it as input to another API. So we'll look at that chaining. And I'll also talk about JavaScripts, where you can automate the process of writing statements such as, if first API passes, go to second API. If second API passes, go to third API. If third API passes, or if third API fails, stop the execution. Such kind of conditional checks and workflows also we will write in chapter 8. Let me take a pause here. Anyone has a question until this point?
So which APIs do we automate in Postman tool? What kind of APIs, like which APIs?
We will automate RESTful APIs, SOAP APIs, APIs with authorization, APIs without authorization. These are the type of APIs we'll automate.
So I mean, like we will be using some dummy APIs or what?
Real-time APIs, which are talking to databases.
All right, all right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we gonna integrate this particular tool with any other third-party tool, or is it gonna be only Postman?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we will integrate Postman with Jenkins, which is used for continuous testing. We'll also integrate with GitHub during the course. These are the
During
two
this
tools that
course?
I can show you. Yeah, Jenkins and GitHub.
During this course, right?
Yes, yes. In the
For
course,
for
yes.
for CI/CD pipeline stuff.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay. So let me move forward. Yeah, so Praveen says, are you going to cover access tokens? The answer is yes, Praveen. We will be covering those things as well. Okay, now we'll talk about chapter 9. So in chapter 9, I'm going to introduce a feature called as import feature that Postman provides. Now this is a very powerful feature that Postman provides. If you understand the import functionality in Postman, you can work almost in any company, in any project with any developer, because each developer writes documentation in a different format. And how do you get that format into Postman is what chapter 9 talks about. Example, you might be working with RESTful APIs. Import feature is answer. You might be working with SOAP APIs and WSDL files. Import feature is answer. A developer says, hey, I'm using Swagger. Yes, import is the answer. Developer says, I'm using YAML files. Import feature will answer that. The developer says, I have a JSON file. import feature can help you test it. Sometimes developer says, take the APIs from the browser itself. Postman can help you. Developer says, I will give you a HAR file, which is HTTP archive resource files. Import feature is answer. Developer says, I have a folder which has the APIs. Import feature is answer. Developer says, I have my APIs in GitHub repository or GitLab or Bitbucket. Import feature is the answer. Developer says, I have a curl programming language API. Import feature is answer. So I'm covering almost all the different methodologies in which APIs will be documented by the developers across the world. And this chapter 9 is a universal solution. So this is my practical learning that I gained and the challenges that I was able to solve in my career. And I have kept that as a part of my course so that everyone will benefit. Okay. Chapter 10 is also part of chapter 9, which is nothing but converting your APIs into curl and converting curl to APIs. Chapter 11 introduces to the variables concept. Now we know variables, right? They are the placeholders and containers that stores the values in an object. And Postman supports the concept of variables. Here also you have public variables. They're called as global variables here. You have local variables, which are called as collection variables. You can create environment variables. You can create variables in a manual way, or you can write a JavaScript to create a variable. So I'll show you the entire usage of variables and why you should create them. The advantage of creating those variables, I'll show it to you in chapter 11. Chapter 12 is where I'm going to talk about another tool, which is called as Newman tool. Most of the API testers in the market are not aware of this, but this is a mandate. Newman tool helps you to generate HTML test report, JSON test reports, XML test report, CSV test report. Using Newman, we can integrate Postman automation with continuous integration and continuous testing such as Jenkins. So we'll install this whole setup of Newman, which is a CLI, command line interface tool coming from Postman. So Newman is not a third-party tool. It's coming from Postman only. So chapter 12 is going to be one of the USP of my course. You will love this tool for sure. Finally, chapter 13 is focused on how do you troubleshoot, debug, and understand the general settings on Postman tool so that you can solve most of the common challenges just by understanding the troubleshooting techniques and debugging techniques. And yeah, so that would be the last topic of our course, chapter 13. And this course is planned for nearly 22 to 25 working days, 1 hour each. So you can assume that overall we will have 25 hours. I mean, somewhere between 20 hours to 25 hours to complete this course. The first 2 to 3 classes will be theory. Starting from 4th class onwards, it is going to be practical. And I'm going to share the recordings to you guys. I'm also going to share the notes also. I'll quickly show you the notes that I have prepared. You'll understand how the notes looks like. So you're going to get all these notes. You will get some common interview questions and answers, object assessment, subject to assessments. These are the reusable test cases I have prepared. These are the test engineer responsibilities that you can use for building your resume. This is a test plan document I'm going to share with you. Then the notes of API testing techniques and the PPT for Postman, API syntax document, client and server architecture document, etc. You see, a lot of notes have been prepared by me on each topic, and these notes I have prepared personally, and you will also get screenshots. Like if I just open any one document, right? Let me open this performance testing document. You will see step-by-step procedure, how to do this, and along with that, you will get some screenshots. You see, some screenshots are also there in my document so that you can read the steps and the document to understand how automation testing can be conducted using Postman tool. So this notes is prepared exclusively by me, and every student of mine gets the benefit of this. Okay. So that's all I have in this demonstration, which is all about, helping you guys understand what I do in this training, what I teach in this training. Over to you guys. If you have any questions in general about this course, please go ahead and ask me those questions now.
I have a question here. How fast how fast this training is gonna go? Because for some other trainers, once students get enrolled, they're gonna take class maybe today, tomorrow no class, tomorrow the other day no class. So it's like you're gonna waste a whole bunch of time. And some of this stuff supposed to be timeline because people might want to use that on their projects.
Yes, yes.
That
So
is
let
one.
me answer this. Yeah.
Secondly,
So
would you
uh,
provide any project support if somebody happens to actually get job pertaining to APIs and somebody needs project support like maybe guidelines, stuff like that, assistance because the person is new? That is the second question. And third question, how important is this training for performance testers or performance test engineers, please?
yeah, let me answer this question. So most likely, based on the enrollments, we are planning to start this batch next week, and the classes would be 1 hour per day, and the classes would be from Monday to Fridays. Saturdays and Sundays are excluded. And if you have any specific questions on the topics that I have taught and you're having difficulty in your project, you can ask me the very next day in the class so that I can try to answer your queries and see if I can solve that problem. But then it has to be a little generic question rather than a project specific question, because in the training it would be a holistic and a generalized a training that I will be doing, applicable for all the projects though. A project support would not be 100% given by me. That's something we can talk separately if you're looking at project support. But as part of the training, the regular ones will be discussed. And Monday to Friday is what the course is, 1 hour per day. And we are planning to start the batches most likely from next week based on the enrollments that we get after this demo is completed. I hope that should answer your question.
Yeah, it answers my question. And after this training, is it okay somebody could put this type of training on his or her resume? How is that gonna work? How do we actually put this on the resume? And if you happen to be called for interview, how you gonna actually navigate through stuff like this? Because you've never used it. How would you guide us, please?
Yeah. So since nearly 21 classes are practical training classes, right? So based on your practice and the projects that I'm giving you, you will excuse me, you'll get an understanding of what you have to put in your resume. For that, I have already given the responsibilities that you can type in your resume, and I'm sure you'll be pretty much confident on showcasing on your resume because you have practically practiced it during the training program itself. So I can instill that confidence by 50% for sure. Only if you're listening and if you're also practicing it after the training is completed, I'm sure the confidence can be increased from 50 to around 80%. Because this is going to be a practical training and I'm sure you'll understand it because that's how the training has been devised. And I'm not going to run the show in a hurry. It's going to be pretty slow. We are driving the car in second gear. We are not going to drive the car in the fifth gear. It's going to be pretty slow so that everyone understands it. Okay.
Are there any
Kiran,
demo
I have one.
sessions planned?
I'm sorry, are there any?
Demo sessions planned? Demo sessions.
This itself is the demo. We don't have any other demos.
Kiran, I have one question. How good this is actually aligned with the real, real API job expectation? For example, let's say somebody who's doing manual testing for last 10 years, and he wants to switch into the API manual or automation testing. So probably the people who are actually looking at this profile would be expecting more, right? So in that context, how good or how well we need to prepare for that job with your
Okay.
experience? Can you answer this?
Yes, yes. See, the simplest answer to your question is if you understood the first 3 chapters, which is the first 3 days of training program, you are tuning your mind from manual testing to API testing. Okay. And if you start understanding from chapter 4, and if you're doing it practically after the training is completed on a daily basis, you have tuned your mind to automation testing of APIs. And uh, I mean, maybe I'll take a pride in this factor to tell you that all those folks who attended this training from me in several ways, I mean, through corporate trainings or through public batches like this, we have seen 80% success rate because I'll tell you why, right? I mean, see, so many trainers are doing a good job in the market, but then there is something special that we do at Isha Trainings. Example, if you look at this point which I'm highlighting in chapter 6, this will make you prepare for the real-time interviews, and chapter 9, chapter 8 makes you prepare for the real-time projects. And this is common for any project in the world, common for any project in any organization and for any developer. So the course is not prepared in such a way that it will help you only in one project. It will help you in your 50 projects also. Why? I mean, what is the confidence I have? I'll tell you. Because when I learned of Postman and API testing 8 years before, I mean, I learned it online. In fact, I didn't learn from any other trainer. But I have faced a lot of challenges when I was working for smart cities in India, working for different customers and governments and enterprises. I have to solve all these problems on my own by taking the help from Postman tool, online community. I found out a lot of solutions for every challenge that I faced and even you will face in the future. Whatever the challenges that I faced that you will face in the future, they're all part of my table of contents. So a person who completes the course and who also practices it at their home will be 80% confident in giving an interview, and 90% of the chances that you will clear the interviews, and 90% of the chances that you will convert yourself from a manual tester to a successful API tester in the current organization or any other organization. That's the
Okay.
answer I have
Thank
for
you.
your question.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So about JavaScript, I think we are doing with this with JavaScript. So are we going to go through any basics on it? Because I guess myself, I mean, if I take me as an example, I don't have any coding experience or any knowledge on like JavaScript or JSON or any other things. So how do you actually prepare like resources like me for this if I get
Okay.
enrolled?
Yeah. See, I mean, you don't have to come from Java background. You don't have to come from JavaScript background. The only prerequisite is like, if you say that, yeah, I have seen JavaScript when my developer wrote it, or in my college days, I've learned Java or JavaScript, but I forgot it now. That is more than enough to enroll in this course. I'll tell you why. You will not write hundreds of lines of code in Postman. You will write at the maximum 2 lines, 3 lines. But you might say, how do I write even those 2 lines when I don't know? The answer is Postman has a section where you can pull the scripts automatically, meaning you click and the script comes automatically. And the script looks pretty much in English. And just reading the script, you will understand 99% what that script will do. Right now, I'm not showing any script on the screen, but yeah, you will understand when I show it to you. And like I said, there is a document I have prepared which has all the common JavaScripts for doing any activity in your project. And when I say script, please remember it's hardly 3 lines of code, not more than 3 lines of code. And these 3 lines Postman itself is giving. Areas where Postman cannot give, I have prepared a document based on my experience, which I think will be a common script even in your projects. I have articulated that into a document and I will share that document during the training program. So be assured that even if you do not know JavaScript or any programming language, you can happily enroll in this course, in this training, I mean, with me or with any other trainer also, because JavaScript is not mandatory at all. In fact, when I learned, even I don't know JavaScript. Even today, if you ask me, I'm not a developer. I'm still a QA folk with little understanding on JavaScripts, but I can write it in Postman. And after you complete the course, you will also have the artificial intelligence in you how to do it. Yeah, that's the answer of your question.
Yeah, you left one of my questions out. I said, what is how important is this course to performance testers or performance test analysts? And the second one I would like to buttress from one of the participants is the person asked whether we'll be using domain APIs. You said we're gonna be using live, is it live APIs or is it APIs from? So you want to please elaborate on those, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a while. You're saying elaborate on what?
The type of APIs we're gonna be using, according to one of the participants, she
Okay,
said
types of
whether
APIs.
we'll be using domain APIs. You said no. I don't know whether I got you right. Are we gonna be using domain APIs or is it gonna be APIs from your company? If that is possible, you want to please?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer that question. So the types of APIs, right? So what I would be covering is SOAP APIs will cover, which will be in XML format. Then I will cover REST APIs, which will be in JSON format. We will cover consumer-based APIs. We will cover enterprise-based APIs. We'll cover public APIs. We'll cover private APIs. We'll cover secured or authorized APIs. We will cover unsecured or unauthorized APIs. So this is the type of APIs that I'm going to cover. I hope you're able to see my screen share, right? Yeah, not bad. And if I have to go a little deeper, then I will say I will cover even curl based APIs. I'll cover XML based APIs. I'll cover YAML based APIs, JSON based APIs, HAR based APIs, etc. So I can say these are few of the types that I'm going to cover. Okay.
Is it gonna be domain APIs? Are we gonna use domain or are we gonna?
See, again, domain APIs would be part of these things. Like if I'm taking, let's say, entertainment industry, the domain would be entertainment, right? So based on the APIs which are publicly available, we'll pick them. So they would be like employee details which are present in a database, or a student details present in a database. If you want any domain specific, we'll have to figure out APIs which are available on the internet, like weather based APIs are available. We can do that also. Any other questions? Yeah, I hope I have answered your question. Any other questions, guys?
Kiran, if you miss any of the session for different reasons, can we get the recording on the next day?
Yes. This call is being recorded. Isha Trainings.
Not
If you
this one.
contact them,
Once
they can
we.
help you.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
Thanks.
yeah. All the classes will be recorded, and you will get access.
Sure. So can we know about the fee structure and all?
Not on the demo, but I think if you can contact Isha Training team. I mean, if you're part of the WhatsApp group or the way you got it, just message Isha team. They'll help you on the pricing.
Yeah, sure.
What is the timing
One
for
last quick one.
batches?
Timings most likely will be the similar timings, like the demo timings, whatever we are demoing, right? But we will finalize it either from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Indian timings or 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Indian timings. Based on the democracy, we'll take a call on that.
Okay.
So the section is gonna include all the tool setup because some environment they want you to set up the tool stuff like that. Are you gonna cover that too?
Yeah. Asked you guys for a while. Was there any question for me?
Last question, Kiran. I think about resume building actually. So once this course is completed, are we getting any kind of help in terms of adding the project details or other R&R details in the project, etc., with your experience or somebody's help?
Yes, yes. That is something I can definitely help you guys. Do not worry about that.
Well, what was the question? You were breaking up somehow.
So can we drop off, Kiran? Is there anything else to please share?
Hello? Hello, trainer? Hello? Can you hear me?